I just posted a photo of us clinking wine glasses at sunset with the caption, "Forever isn't long enough." It's the kind of post that makes people pause their scrolling sigh with envy and double tap with a mix of admiration and resentment. In the photo, Chloe is radiant, her skin glowing in the golden hour light, her smile reaching those eyes that used to be my entire world. I look like the lucky man I'm supposed to be, the sturdy, successful husband who provides the beautiful backdrop for her perfect life. Within 3 minutes, the likes started pouring in like rain on a tin roof. 300, 500, 1,000. To the world, we are the gold standard of marriage in the suburbs of Seattle. To the world, we are goals. But as I sit here on the edge of our king-sized bed watching the blue light of her phone illuminate her face, while she obsessively refreshes the engagement metrics, I feel like a ghost in my own house. The wine in those glasses was cheap, and we didn't even drink it. We poured it out right after the shutter clicked. The sunset wasn't a romantic moment. It was a lighting cue. And that caption, it wasn't about our love. It was about her brand. Have you ever felt like you're living two lives, and you're starting to forget which one is real? Let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I need to know I'm not the only one who's felt this lost. And if you've ever sensed that the perfect lives you see online are just expensive masks, hit that subscribe button. You're going to want to hear how this mask finally cracked. My name is Julian. I'm a senior cybersecurity engineer. My entire professional life is built on a foundation of logic encryption and the hunt for vulnerabilities. I find the weak spots in massive corporate firewalls before the bad guys do. I'm paid to be paranoid. I'm paid to assume that even the most secure system has a back door. I just never thought the biggest security breach of my life would be happening in my own bedroom, sitting right next to me under Egyptian cotton sheets. Chloe is a lifestyle influencer. That's the official title. What it actually means is that our life is a product. Our kitchen isn't for cooking. It's a set for what I eat in a day videos. Our vacations aren't for relaxing. They are content-gathering expeditions. I've spent more time holding a ring light than I have holding her hand lately. At first, I supported it. I was proud of her. I thought she was building something. But then the system started showing glitches. The first glitch was the silence. Not the comfortable silence of two people who know each other deeply, but a cold, heavy silence that filled the gaps between her social media uploads. When the camera was off, she was a stranger. She'd spend hours tilted over her phone, her thumb flicking upward in a rhythmic, hypnotic motion. When I'd try to talk to her about my day, about a complex script I'd written, or a meeting that went south, she'd give me a hollow, "That's crazy, babe," without ever looking up. Then came the passwords. We used to be an open book couple. My passcode was her birthday. Hers was mine. It was a symbol of trust, even if we never checked each other's devices. Then one Tuesday morning, I picked up her phone to check the weather because mine was charging in the other room. The screen didn't open. It asked for a 6-digit PIN. When I asked her about it, she didn't even blink. Oh, my manager said I need better security for my accounts. You know, since I'm getting more followers. Hackers, right? I'm a cybersecurity expert. I know a lie when I hear one. You don't secure an Instagram account by changing your local phone PIN and hiding the screen when you type it. You secure it with two-factor authentication and hardware keys. But I played along. I nodded. I became the good husband who respects her privacy, while every instinct I had was screaming that the firewall had been compromised. I started noticing the work trips. Chloe's niche was family and home. But suddenly she needed to attend networking mixers in downtown Seattle or brand retreats in Portland. She'd come back smelling not of her usual lavender perfume, but of something sharper, something masculine, sandalwood, and expensive cigars. She'd be energized, glowing in a way that my presence never seemed to trigger anymore. One night about a month ago, the glitch became a full-blown system failure. It was 2:14 a.m. The house was dead quiet, save for the hum of the HVAC system. Chloe was fast asleep, her breathing steady and shallow. Her phone, which she usually kept tucked under her pillow, had slid out and was lying face up on the nightstand. A notification banner popped up. It was a photo. In the dim light, I saw enough. It was a shot of a man's torso in a mirror, lean tattooed, wearing nothing but a towel. The caption read, "I can still feel you on my skin. Can't wait for Friday." The sender was Xander. I felt a physical sensation in my chest, like a cold blade being driven between my ribs. My heart didn't race. It slowed down heavy and thumping against my lungs. My mind, trained for decades to process data under pressure, went into incident response mode. I didn't wake her up. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the phone across the room. If I did that, she'd delete everything. She'd gaslight me. She'd turn it around and make me the controlling, paranoid husband to her 300,000 followers. She'd play the victim, and she was an expert at that. Instead, I sat there in the dark, watching the man in the photo disappear as the screen timed out. I looked at my wife, the woman I had worked 60-hour weeks for, so she could pursue her dream, the woman I had supported through every doubt and every failure. She looked so peaceful, so innocent. I got up quietly and went to my home office. I didn't turn on the lights. I sat in the glow of my triple monitor setup and felt a transformation taking place. The Julian who loved Chloe, the Julian who believed in forever, was being overwritten. A new program was loading. I realized then that Chloe didn't just love the attention of other men. She loved the game. She loved the thrill of the lie. She was using our marriage as a safety net while she performed a high-wire act of infidelity. She thought I was the boring, predictable background character in her life story. She thought my technical skills were just for fixing the Wi-Fi or helping her recover a forgotten password. She had no idea that she was living with a man who could see through every digital wall she tried to build. The cursor blinked steadily, a rhythmic white heartbeat against the black terminal of my screen, mocking the static silence of the house. While the red dot on my map remained anchored to that Belltown hotel room, my focus shifted toward the financial skeleton Chloe had been building in the closet of our marriage. I had always handled the taxes, the mortgage, and the bulk of our living expenses, leaving her influencer income as her own fun money. At least that's what I had told myself. But as I bypassed the secondary authentication of a local credit union, she'd never mentioned a different story began to download. There it was, a high-yield savings account with a balance that made my stomach turn. $28,000. Most of it had been funneled in small, inconspicuous increments, 500 here, 1,000 there, disguised as equipment costs or consulting fees. She wasn't just cheating on me. She was preparing for an exit. She was subsidizing her new life with the very stability I provided. I leaned closer to the monitor, the reflection of complex spreadsheets dancing in my pupils. I could feel the coldness from part one hardening into something more tactical, something surgical. I didn't just want to watch her. I wanted to inhabit her digital world until she couldn't tell where her secrets ended and my presence began. I wasn't just a husband anymore. I was the ghost in the machine she worshipped. Suddenly, my phone vibrated on the desk. It was an incoming call from Chloe. My heart did a strange, jagged stutter before I forced my breathing into a slow, deliberate cadence. I let it ring 3 times. If I answered too fast, I'd look like I was waiting. If I didn't answer at all, she'd panic and come home too early. "Hey, babe," I said, my voice as smooth as polished glass. "Everything okay at the launch?" There was a pause. On the other end, I could hear the muffled ambient noise of a hallway, the distant ding of an elevator. Her breathing was ragged, shallow. "Julian, yeah. Yeah, everything is fine. It's so loud in here. I stepped out for a second. I just wanted to check in." "What are you doing?" "Just looking at some old code," I replied, staring directly at the screen showing her exact location in the hotel. "It's pretty quiet here. You sound a little tense, Chloe. Is the networking not going well?" "No, it's great," she lied, the tremor in her voice barely perceptible to anyone who didn't know her as well as I did. "Listen, I might be even later than I thought. Don't wait up, okay?" "Take your time," I said. "Enjoy the launch." The line went dead. I watched the red dot on my monitor move. She wasn't going back into the room. She was moving toward the elevators. The messages I'd sent as the anonymous hacker had hit their mark. She was rattled. She was beginning to realize that her privacy was an illusion, a thin curtain I had just shredded. I didn't stop. I couldn't. I navigated into her primary email, the one she used for all her brand deals and private correspondence. I found a thread with Derek the tech bro I'd identified earlier. The emails were graphic, filled with plans for a weekend getaway to Napa, while I was supposed to be at a cybersecurity conference in Las Vegas next month. They joked about my boring obsession with data. Derek called me a human calculator. I felt a surge of bitter adrenaline. A human calculator. Well, it was time to show Derek exactly how I balanced the books. I spent the next hour intercepting their shared calendar. I didn't delete the Napa trip. Instead, I modified the reservation. I changed the vineyard tour to a legal consultation at a firm specializing in high-asset divorces. I redirected the confirmation emails to a dummy folder so they wouldn't notice the change until they arrived. Then, I turned my attention back to Xander. He was the low-hanging fruit, the physical distraction. I accessed the hotel's internal camera system again. I couldn't get eyes inside the room, but I had the hallway. I watched as Chloe stepped out of the elevator on the ground floor. She looked manic, her eyes darting toward every person in the lobby. She looked like a trapped animal. Behind her, a few minutes later, Xander emerged. He looked annoyed, adjusting his leather jacket, scanning the room for her. I felt a twisted sense of power. With a few keystrokes, I had turned their secret playground into a minefield. But the paranoia needed to scale. It wasn't enough for her to fear a hacker. She needed to feel the walls of her perfect Instagram life closing in. I opened her Instagram creator studio. I looked at the queue of posts she had lined up for the next week. Monday motivation, why trust is the foundation of every home. I nearly laughed out loud. I didn't delete the post. I edited the image metadata. Hidden in the alt text, the text read by screen readers and picked up by algorithms, I embedded the coordinates of the Belltown Hotel and the timestamp of her arrival tonight. To her followers, it would look like a normal post. But to the AI that governed her reach, she was now tagged to a location she was supposed to be miles away from. As I worked, the house around me seemed to grow colder, the shadows in the corners stretching like ink. I was no longer the man who had clinked wine glasses at sunset. That man was a casualty of the data I was processing. I heard the garage door moan open. My muscles tensed. She was home. I didn't close my monitors. I didn't hide. I simply switched the display to a complex, harmless-looking server log. I waited for her footsteps on the stairs, those familiar rhythmic clicks that used to bring me joy now sounding like the ticking of a countdown. When she walked into the office, she looked pale. The radiant influencer was gone, replaced by a woman whose makeup was slightly smudged, her hair frizzy from the Seattle humidity. She was clutching her phone like a weapon. "You're still up," she said, her voice small. "I told you I had work to do." I said, not turning my head, keeping my eyes on the cascading lines of green text. "How was the Hyatt? Did you meet anyone interesting?" She walked over to the desk, her reflection appearing in the glossy black bezel of my side monitor. It was exhausting. Just a lot of people talking about themselves. I think I'm just going to go to bed. She lingered for a moment, her eyes scanning my workspace, looking for anything that might explain the messages she'd received. She was looking for a sign that I was the one behind the screen. But I was the professional. I had layers of encryption between my soul and my actions. "Julian," she whispered. "Yeah." I finally turned to look at her. I gave her the most neutral, supportive expression I could muster. Do you ever feel like someone is watching us? Like the more I post, the more I feel like I don't have any secrets left." I tilted my head, feigning deep thought. "That's the price of the life you chose, Chloe. You turned our privacy into a commodity. When you sell the walls of your house, you can't be surprised when people start looking through the windows." She flinched as if I'd struck her. She didn't say another word. "Ba a ki lung ji. Buk ve fia fong ngu voi joy vi sup shuang." I waited until I heard the shower start. Then I pulled up the secret bank account again. I initiated a transfer, not to my account, but to a charitable foundation for victims of domestic emotional abuse. I left exactly $1 in her balance. Then I opened a new browser tab. I searched for private investigators, Seattle, infidelity specialists. I didn't need them to find the truth. I already had the truth. I needed them to provide the human testimony that would satisfy a judge when my digital evidence was presented. I looked at the clock. 3:45 a.m. The sun would be up soon, and we would have to film another morning coffee video for her fans. I would have to stand there, hold the camera, and tell her she looked beautiful while she lied to the world. I went to the kitchen and grabbed a fresh mug. My hands didn't shake as I filled it. I stood by the window staring out at the gray, misty morning, listening to the water stop in the upstairs bathroom, wondering how many more likes her next post would get before the entire world found out exactly who she was. I took a slow sip of the bitter black liquid, feeling the heat settle in my chest. My mind already calculating the exact sequence of the next leak. The steam from the coffee mug swirled into the cold morning air, a ghostly fog that mimicked the confusion I knew was currently suffocating Chloe upstairs. I stood motionless by the granite island, the silence of the kitchen feeling like a physical weight. The transition from protector to predator was complete. I wasn't just observing a breach in our marriage anymore. I was the architect of its controlled demolition. By 7 a.m., the house was flooded with the artificial cheer of a new content cycle. Chloe emerged from the bedroom, her face heavily layered with concealer to hide the exhaustion I had gifted her. She didn't look at me. She went straight for the espresso machine, her movements jerky and uncoordinated. "We need to film the 'husband does my coffee' segment," she murmured, propping her phone against a vase of wilted lilies. The followers have been asking for it. Try to look. I don't know more present today, Julian. I picked up the camera, the lens acting as a shield between my eyes and her deception. I watched through the small LCD screen as she tilted her head, her influencer mask snapping into place the second the red light blinked. She laughed a melodic, hollow laugh, leaning into my shoulder as I poured the steamed milk. "Look at this heart he made you guys," she cooed to the lens. 7 years later, and he still treats every morning like our first date. Hashtag marriage goals. Hashtag blessed. Behind the camera, my jaw tightened so hard I felt a dull ache in my molars. I was staring at a professional. She could stand inches away from the man she was bleeding dry, the man who had just sent her into a panic in a hotel room, and blow kisses to a digital audience. The hypocrisy was a jagged pill that refused to go down. As soon as the recording stopped, the smile vanished. She snatched the phone back, her thumbs immediately flying across the glass. I knew what she was looking for. She was checking her bank app. I stayed perfectly still, cleaning the steam wand with a microfiber cloth, waiting for the inevitable. A sharp, strangled gasp escaped her throat. "Julian, there's something wrong. My savings account, it's gone." I didn't turn around. "What do you mean gone? The balance is $1, $28,000 is just vanished. There's a transfer to some charity I've never heard of." She was shaking now, her phone clattering onto the counter. "I've been hacked. It wasn't just those messages last night. Someone is inside my life, Julian. They're taking everything." I finally turned, leaning back against the sink with an expression of calm concern. "That's strange. Your security is usually so tight, Chloe. Maybe it was a glitch in the credit union system, or maybe..." I paused, letting the silence stretch until she looked me in the eye. "Maybe you've been sharing your login details with the wrong people. Brand managers, collaborators." Her face went from pale to a sickly, translucent white. She knew I wasn't just talking about work, but she couldn't admit it without revealing the hotel Xander and the lies. She was trapped in a prison of her own making, and I was the one who held the key. "I have to go to the bank," she said, grabbing her designer bag. "I have to fix this." "I thought you had that brunch meeting with Sarah and the mommy blogger group." I reminded her, knowing full well she had actually planned to meet Derek for a pre-Napa planning session. "I'll cancel it. I can't think about brunch when my money is missing." She bolted out the door, the tires of her SUV screaming against the driveway. I didn't follow her. I didn't need to. I went back to my office and pulled up the GPS. She wasn't going to the bank. She drove 2 blocks, pulled into a grocery store parking lot, and stayed there. My monitors showed her phone making a series of frantic encrypted calls. I tapped into the audio. It was Derek. "He knows Derek. I don't know how, but he knows." She was sobbing into the phone. "The messages, the bank account. It's all happening at once. I think Julian is on to us." "Calm down." Derek's voice was cold, dismissive. "He's a tech nerd, Chloe, not a spy. It's probably just a coincidence. Or maybe Xander talked. I told you that kid was a liability. Just play it cool. If you panic now, you lose the leverage for the divorce." Leverage. The word tasted like ash in my mouth. They were already discussing the divorce. They were planning to gut me while I was still trying to figure out why my wife's perfume had changed. I closed the audio feed. I had heard enough. It was time to stop being the human calculator and start being the system override. I spent the afternoon at a local law firm, the one I had redirected her Napa reservation to. I sat across from a woman named Elena. A shark of a divorce attorney who specialized in high conflict cases. I laid out the files, the GPS logs, the hotel Wi-Fi intercepts, the photos, the secret bank records. This is thorough, Elena said, flipping through the pages. In this state, infidelity doesn't always guarantee a clean break, but the prenuptial agreement you signed has a very specific moral turpitude clause regarding public reputation and financial transparency. She's been funneling marital assets into a private account while using your image to build a brand based on a lie. We can leave her with the clothes on her back and not much else. Do it, I said, but not yet. I want the climax to be public. She lives for the audience, then she can die by the audience. When I returned home, Chloe was sitting on the sofa, a glass of wine in her hand. The lights were off. She looked like a ghost, haunting her own living room. The bank said, "They're investigating." She lied, her voice hollow. "They think it's an international syndicate. They told me not to touch the account for 48 hours. That's a relief, I said, sitting down next to her. I reached out and tucked a stray hair behind her ear. She flinched just for a millisecond before forcing herself to lean into my touch. I'd hate for anything to ruin our big anniversary dinner next week. I've already invited your parents, and I've got a special surprise planned for your followers. A live stream. The truth behind the journals, we'll call it. She froze. The glass in her hand trembled. A live stream, Julian, you hate being on camera. For you, Chloe, I'll make an exception. It's time the world saw the real us. Don't you think? I stood up and walked toward the stairs, leaving her in the dark. I could feel her eyes on my back, wide, terrified, searching for the man she thought she knew. I reached the landing and looked down at her. The blue light of her phone flickered on again, illuminating her desperate face as she typed another secret message to someone who would never be able to save her. I went into the bedroom and began packing a small bag hidden in the back of the closet, not for a trip, but for the day I would finally change the locks. I looked at the framed photo on the nightstand, us on our wedding day, laughing under a canopy of oak trees. I picked it up, feeling the cold glass under my thumb, and for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel any anger. I just felt the heavy, final click of a door closing deep inside my chest as I realized the woman in that photo hadn't existed for a very long time. The framed wedding photo felt unnervingly heavy in my hands, a relic from a civilization that had long since collapsed. I set it back on the nightstand face down. The silence in the bedroom was surgical, a sharp contrast to the frantic muted tapping of Chloe's fingers on her phone downstairs. She was a captain trying to bail water out of a sinking ship with a thimble, unaware that I had already replaced the ocean with gasoline. As I stood there in the shadows, I realized that the greatest lie wasn't hers. It was the one I had told myself for 7 years. I had believed that if I built a secure enough world, nothing could hurt us. But you can't encrypt a human soul, and you certainly can't firewall a heart that craves the adrenaline of betrayal over the peace of loyalty. The night of our anniversary dinner arrived with a cold, biting wind that rattled the windows of our suburban sanctuary. Chloe's parents were already there, sitting at our dining table, looking at the expensive spread I had ordered. They were good people, traditional and proud, blissfully unaware that their daughter's perfect marriage was about to be incinerated. Chloe was wearing a dress the color of a bruise, her eyes darting toward me every time I moved toward my laptop. "All right, everyone," I said, my voice projecting a warmth that felt like a well-tailored suit. Chloe has worked so hard to build this community online. I thought for our 7th anniversary, we should share a special moment with her 300,000 friends. The live stream is starting now. Chloe's breath hitched. She reached for her wine, her hand visibly shaking. Julian, maybe we should just keep this private. My parents are here. Nonsense, I replied, hitting the Go Live button on the tripod-mounted camera. The world needs to see the real, unspoken journals, don't you think? The engagement count on the screen began to climb instantly. 2,000, 5,000, 10,000 people joined within seconds, their comments scrolling by in a blur of emojis and happy anniversary messages. Chloe sat stiffly, a frozen porcelain smile plastered on her face as she waved to the lens. Hi guys, she chirped her voice, hitting that high melodic register that used to make me smile, but now made my skin crawl. We have a huge surprise for you tonight. Julian has been working on a special project. I interrupted, stepping into the frame. I looked directly into the lens, speaking not to the camera, but to the thousands of people who had idolized our lie. You see, Chloe's brand is built on transparency, on the idea that a modern marriage can be flawless. But tonight, I want to show you the data behind the image. I reached over and tapped a key on my laptop, which was mirrored to the 75-inch TV behind the dining table, the same TV Chloe used to review her daily edits. The first image wasn't of us. It was a crystal-clear screenshot of the Belltown Hotel Wi-Fi logs, followed by the GPS heat map of her SUV parked there while she was supposedly at a brand launch. The comments section on the live stream froze for a second, then exploded. Julian, what is this? Chloe's mother whispered, her face ashen. Chloe stood up her chair, screeching against the hardwood. Julian, turn it off. Stop it right now. I didn't stop. The next slide was the Xander folder. Photos of her in the motel parking lot. Screen grabs of the sandalwood and cigar messages. Then the Derek archives, the emails discussing how to gut me in the divorce, how to use my boring nature as leverage. This is the moral turpitude clause in action. Chloe, I said, my voice dropping to a low, steady rumble. I didn't just track you. I audited you. I found the $28,000 you funneled away. I found the Napa reservations. I found the woman you've been pretending not to be. Chloe was no longer an influencer. She was a woman crumbling in real time, her mascara running in black streaks down her face. Her secret life laid bare before her parents and the 300,000 strangers who were now witnessing her professional and personal suicide. The likes had turned into a torrent of vitriol and shock. It's over, Chloe, I said, closing the laptop with a definitive thud. The bank account is empty because the money went to people you actually hurt. The house is mine. The car is mine. And the audience. They finally know the truth. I handed her the single suitcase I had packed days ago. It was sitting by the front door. I've already changed the codes. Your things will be at your mother's house by tomorrow. For now, you should go. You have a lot of comments to reply to. Her father stood up, his eyes filled with a mix of shame and fury, not at me, but at the daughter who had disgraced their family name for a few hours of cheap excitement. He didn't say a word to her. He just picked up his coat and walked out, his wife following him in stunned silence. Chloe looked at me, her mouth working but no sound coming out. The perfect wife was gone. The lifestyle guru was a memory. There was just a stranger in a bruised purple dress standing in my foyer. "You're a monster," she finally hissed. "No," I replied, opening the front door for her. "I'm just a human calculator," and the math finally checked out. I watched her walk down the driveway into the cold Seattle mist, her heels clicking on the pavement until the sound faded into the night. I went back inside, locked the door, and for the first time in months, the house felt quiet. Truly quiet. No ring lights, no rehearsed laughter, no digital ghosts. I sat back down at the table and looked at the live stream, which was still running. Tens of thousands of people were still there, arguing, debating, and taking sides. Some called me a hero. Others called me a sociopath. What do you think? Did I go too far by exposing her in front of the world she used to deceive me? Or was this the only way to ensure she couldn't spin the truth? One last time? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm curious to see who you think the real villain is. I reached over and ended the stream. The screen went black. I took a slow sip of the wine she hadn't finished, feeling the coldness in my chest finally begin to thaw. I had lost a wife, but I had gained my reality back. And in a world built on filters and lies, reality is the only thing worth keeping. I stood up, walked to the bedroom, and finally, for the first time in 7 years, I slept without wondering what was happening in the dark. Thanks for sticking with me through this. If you've ever had to burn your own life down to find the truth in the ashes, you know how I feel. Don't forget to subscribe for the next chapter of how I'm rebuilding from zero. Until next time, stay safe and keep your firewalls high.